Hey guys, it's Rowan here, bringing you another fresh take. In this week's episode we're going to be looking at something a bit different. We're going for potted shrimp crumpets. I'm going to talk you through how to make the crumpets, and then we're going to go through a basic potted shrimp mix. It's going to take about an hour and a half in total. So we're going to start with about 300 grams of strong white flour. We've also got 400 ml of milk, and then 100 ml of water's mixed in there as well. We're going to be needing 5 grams of Maldon Salt. Again, I'm using Maldon with this instead of table salt, it's a nicer flavour. Got 1 teaspoon of caster sugar, just sweetens up and helps caramelisation. 5 grams of dried yeast, and then also half a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. Crumpets are a really beautiful thing because they're actually a lot easier than most people think. I'd even say probably easier than making bread. So we're going to start off here by mixing our liquid with the yeast and sugar. I usually skip this step, but it actually helps activate the yeast, especially when using dried yeast. So I'm just going to show you this step anyway. So we put the sugar in there and the 5 grams of dried yeast. We're going to mix it just so everything's thoroughly mixed through. You're basically hydrating the yeast and starting the fermentation process early. And we're going to place this in a warm place for about 15 minutes. You should get a couple of bubbles on the surface after this time. So while that's happening, we're going to make the dry mix for this. So we've got the 300 grams of flour, we've got the bicarbonate of soda, and then the 5 grams of Maldon Salt. I know roughly what 5 grams of this salt looks like, but make sure you weigh it out. Then we're going to add in the liquid mix to this. You're looking for quite a wet batter, pretty much the thickness of cream. The higher the hydration of the batter, the more aerated it's going to be. So in other words, it's going to give the crumpets those distinctive bubbles on the surface when we cook them. I'm going to mix it thoroughly to make sure there's no lumps left in it. And then we're going to cover that and place that in a warm place for about 45 minutes. So while the crumpet batter's proving, we're going to go through the potted shrimp mix. So we've got 175 grams of baby shrimp. We've got 200 grams of unsalted butter diced up. We've got 2 banana shallots that we're going to dice. 2 cloves of garlic chopped up. 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, it's just going to give it a little bit of a kick. As well as 1 teaspoon of paprika, it's a nice smoky finish. Maldon salt just to season. We've got 1 teaspoon of mace or nutmeg. Mace is a lesser known, more pungent version of nutmeg, has more of a cinnamon pepper taste to it. And we've got 10 grams roughly of dill. Fresh is preferred, but you can use dry as well. And then finally we're going to be using half the juice and zest of a lemon. Maybe not everyone knows what potted shrimp is, so it's basically an old British recipe where you preserve shrimp in aromatic butter in a pot, hence potted shrimp. But here we're going to skip the pot part and go straight from the pan to the plate. So we've just got a saucepan, we're going to put a bit of butter in the bottom of it, heat it up on the hob, just so it's melted. And we're going to add our diced shallot, also our chopped garlic, and then just a little bit of the Maldon salt, not only for seasoning but it also helps break down the shallot. It will open the pores and help the shallots sweat instead of fry. So we've got minimum colour on these shallots, we're just softening them up. We're going to add our cayenne pepper and our paprika, and that 1 teaspoon of mace or nutmeg. The remaining butter then we're going to put it back on the hob and melt it down. Adding our baby shrimp. These are actually frozen baby shrimp, they're a lot cheaper. Our dill that I've chopped up. Doesn't need to be anything fancy, it's just a rough chop. And then a little bit more of the Maldon Salt for seasoning. Also going to add the lemon zest. And we're going to mix everything together. Place it back on the hob to cook through the shrimp. It's like pure liquid gold, this stuff. Taste for seasoning. Use a little bit more Maldon Salt. We're actually going to put a touch of black pepper on this as well. As I said about the flavours from the mace, got a little bit of pepper coming through there. And then the lemon juice. Just squeezing it through my hands to sieve the pips. Gonna mix it again and taste again. Taste everything you cook. That's the stuff. So we're just going to put this to one side while we cook the crumpets. I'm using the teppanyaki grill for this. A nice flat top is perfect for these style of things. Pancakes, crumpets, drop scones. Going to oil it lightly. As you can probably tell, this is not my first attempt at this. Like pancakes, the first ones always come out a bit funky. Just going to oil this 10cm metal ring. Place it on the hot top. And then we're going to put our mix in there. I would say about a ladle full is enough for a 10cm ring. You're going to be cooking these at medium-high temperature, nothing too low or they take forever to cook, but you need it high enough to get that colour on the bottom. And then just sit back and watch them cook. They'll usually take about 5 to 7 minutes to cook. You want to ideally cook them on one side for pretty much 90% of the cooking time. Get to the stage where the whole top surface is pretty much dry. You can see the bubbles coming through, and then we're just going to take off the rings, or attempt to take off the rings. As you can see, definitely did not oil these rings enough. Just run a knife around the edge. And then once the top's pretty much dry, we're going to flip them just to finish cooking. We've got a nice caramelization on the bottom there. Just going to cook these through on the other side for about 2 minutes, and that's it, they're done. And there we have it, beautiful little crumpet. Obviously you can just have this with a bit of butter on top, bit of jam, just some cheese. We've gone that step further, we've given this a fresh take. We've got our potted shrimp. Beautiful golden melted butter, it's just going to soak straight into that crumpet. The prawns infused with the aromatics. And then we're going to go one step beyond. I've got here some pickled red onion, made very simply just by covering the red onion with red wine vinegar, pinch of sugar, pinch of salt, and leave it for about 10 minutes. The pickled red onion's just there to cut through the fat acidity is always perfect for cutting through fat and oils. Some fresh dill, which basically goes well on any fish dish. It's just used to enhance the flavour of the shrimp. And then finally just some chive curls. Got some butterfingers there. And there we have it. Nothing to it really. Beautiful airy crumpet, absolutely drenched in that aromatic shrimpy butter. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Rum and Rolo, and also like, comment, share and subscribe to these videos. Catch you next time. This has been Fresh Take.